This is Guns, Knobs, Watches, and this is the MSR Whisperlite. This is an 11 fluid ounce fuel bottle, and this is one of the old Whisperlites from back in the late 80s, early 90s. I believe I bought this when I was 19 years old. I can't verify that, so it's over 25 years old, easy. One way to identify the older Whisperlites is it's got Nomex. I believe that's Nomex on the fuel line instead of the metal that they come with now. Of course, it's had, it's been a good stove for over the years, and it's just a white gas stove. It's the straight Whisperlite. Now, what I've had to do to keep this thing operating is I bought new lids for the fuel bottle because that O-ring right there always goes bad, and it was just easier for me to buy another lid at the outdoor store, and the one here locally is called Nats. So I was able to go into Nats, pick up a new top for my fuel bottle whenever this O-ring goes bad. And I've had to replace the pump, of course, because they've changed the pump design in the last 20 some years. It used to not have this big red gasket on it, and this, there, the other. And just a few other changes. The metal here is different, But anyway, those are a couple things I've had to do to make it operate. And everyone who's seen my channel for years knows that I love the Whisperlite. And it's just a bomb-proof setup as long as you can get white gas. In other countries, maybe you can't get white gas all the time. You can only get, different types of fuel, kerosene, So you have to go with another setup like the Whisperlite International. But right now we're talking about the Whisperlite. And what I'm testing is some really brand new fuel. You can see from the rust on the top of the metal container and going down the sides. It's been beaten up over the years, and they've got rust all on the bottom, or on the other sides. But anyway, so this white gas is, I would sit there and say, at least a decade old, maybe 15 years old, and it's been opened that whole time. Why do I have one that's that old? Because actually I found it. And the one that I've been using here lately is out of a whole other gallon, and somehow this one fell by the wayside. When you have a stockpile of a bunch of crap, things like this is just going to happen. I used to move houses all the time. I used to have to move every so often. In fact, I was really, really good at moving for the first most of my life. But what I'm going to do is I've already got the fuel in the fuel bottle. It's already got some pressure on it, and I'm going to hook this thing together. We're going to see how this thing works. I'm going to clean off. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off right there any little debris. I'm going to take a little bit of spit, put around that little petcock, and we're going to insert it. The reason I use a little bit of spit is just so that it goes into that O-ring a little bit easier. Now, since I've already got it under pressure, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the camera a little bit so that you get a better view and you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to put a little bit of fuel in this cup right here, and you're going to hear it come out, hopefully. Of course, heat and air is on in the background, so you might not. I may not either, but we did see it because you got this shiny going on there. Now, what that is that's a primer cup, and that primer cup, what you do is you just simply ignite it, and then the fuel that comes in through here wraps around and comes up through this area, just gets preheated. So it goes from a liquid to a gas, but you've got to get that started, so we've got to light it. Then what's going to happen is it's going to take that fuel, turn it into a gaseous state, and we are going to be cooking with the gasoline, man. And you'll start to know when that's happening. I'm going to let it get a little bit hotter, burn a little bit more. Of course, we've already passed one test because we now know that the actual fuel will ignite. So it still has the flammable component is there. The flame, of course, has moved to the top. That will speed up the actual preheating process as far as heating that part of the gas line that comes up right through here. We're getting a little bit of soot off of it. Of course, we would expect that because of the age of the fuel. It's not quite as volatile, not quite as clean as it was when it was new. Gonna pop some gas to it. I'm gonna let her calm down just a little bit, and there we go. We have blue flame out of probably 15-year-old gas. I guarantee you it's 15 years old. I'm not going to tell you exactly how old it is, but I guarantee it's 15 years old. Probably bought it before the birth of my chitlins, and so anyway, there we go. We've got that gas, of course, burning. You can regulate this Whisperlite stove a couple different ways. Of course, the more traditional way is with the actual valve, but actually it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of the amount of pressure in this tank, which you regulate that simply by how much pressure you put in. If you see, by me simply increasing the pressure, the noise is increased, the amount of fuel coming out is increased. So it's a balancing act, and if anybody ever has a problem with a stove, that is usually the problem. They have a problem with the balancing act of the stove, because it's a combination of pressure and valving. Of course, the metal is getting red hot there. I don't know if you can see that really well. I'll turn off the light and let you take a better look at it. Of course, you can see the light. One of the lights over my head. Let's get the lights back on, and let's turn this thing off, and let's see how we did. Of course, it takes a little bit of time for the gas to bleach out of the line. Probably shouldn't be doing this in my basement. Luckily, the fire alarm hasn't gone off, and we haven't alerted the authorities. But we got the white gas. It's about 15 years old to ignite. It's giving its last death throes, and now it's pretty much gone. This is a very hot stove right now. One of the things that you're going to be looking for is soot right up under that cup right there. And that's something that we would expect to have with old gas. One of the things that you're going to have to clean about this thing, since you're running old gas through it, is there is an orifice right in there that you're going to have to keep clean. It comes with a cleaning tool. It's basically a little wire on a handle, and it's just something you have to be aware of. So what I'm basically going to do with this fuel right now is I'm going to, even though I know it's combustible, I'm going to relegate it to starting bonfires and things like that. But at least I have a test. I know it works. We're good to go. We're going to go out, start some bonfires, start some this, that, or the other, and use it. But then when I'm out camping, I'm going to put the good fuel through it. Now, the detriment is if you put a lot of old gas through it, you're going to get that sooting, which means you're going to have to clean it, which means you have to take it apart and do a few things. Is it that big a deal? No. Basically, the cup comes off the bottom. I think you clean the orifice. I don't know. I've never really had a problem. I'm going to tell you guys on the street, I've never had a problem. The only problem I've ever had with this thing is the orifice right there getting a little bit of a problem with it, and then the only thing I've ever had to do is take that little tool that you stick in there with the little wire and clean it out. But that's just the way it works. In a survival type scenario or grid down scenario and something like that, would I use this old Coleman Fuel? Yes, I would. If I had nothing else, I would not hesitate in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But this is the test of the 15-year-old, and it's 15-years of being opened, white gas through the Coleman Whisperlite stove. I wish you all the best. Have a good one. Party on. And, you know, it just works. I do need to add, though, even though this fuel is 15 years old, and it is gooey, it has always been in a temperature-controlled, humidity-controlled environment. So, it hasn't been just thrown out into the barn under, the majority of its life. Maybe sometime it hasn't been in the best of circumstances, but it's almost always in a very temperature-regulated environment or in a basement that's got a dehumidifier going, that kind of stuff. Don't know exactly where all the rust came from, but that's just the way it works. This is Guns, Knives, and Watches, and have a good one.